Let's get into the top stories on Africa. Good morning. Build One South Africa has challenged EFF leader Julius Malema to come examine its 140,000 signatures submitted to the Electoral Commission of South Africa. A total of 60,000 signatures were required by the IEC as a prerequisite to being eligible for the national ballot ahead of the national and provincial elections on 29 May. Bosa claims it far exceeded this minimum requirement, and upon submitting the signatures a day before the deadline in March, leader Musi Maimane said they had overcome hurdles placed in their path by the government, IEC and the Constitutional Court. Malema, however, questioned the legitimacy of these signatures during a media briefing on Friday. Challenging the legitimacy of this IEC requirement without any evidence is a serious matter and one which Bosa does not take lightly, a statement from the party read yesterday. Now, Nigeria is seeking up to $2.25 billion in World Bank loans and expects the bank's board to approve the request in June. The government said in a statement following the IMF World Bank spring meetings in Washington, D.C., Nigeria also aims to issue diaspora bonds later this year to attract much-needed foreign exchange into the country, Finance Minister Wale Edun said in a statement. Now, the World Bank loans would comprise $1.5 billion in development policy financing and $750 million in program for results financing, the statement said, adding the bank would meet in June to consider final approval of the package. The World Bank did not immediately comment on the statement. Now, over the next 30 days, starting on the 19th of April, which means, it started on the 19th of April, the Maputo City Council expects to license around 500 illegally built or irregular construction sites in all the municipal districts of Mozambique's capital. To this end, the CMCM launched on the 18th a campaign for the mass regularization of legal or irregular construction work up to the 4th floor with exemption from fines. The initiative comes as the part of the facilitation of processes to regularize the works of residents who do not have a license to do so, and the regularization of the land on which these works were erected without the owners having the title of right of use and enjoyment of land. On the occasion, the Councillor of Urban Planning, Territorial Planning and Environment, Idalio Giovanni, explained that the CMCM had decided not to apply the fines laid down in the municipality's construction and building regulations during this process, but said that the fees that are normally paid for the act would be charged. Now, President Hakainde Hichilema of Zambia yesterday commissioned the process of dewatering the flooded 28 shaft at Chinese-owned CNMC Luanshya copper mines in Luanshya. The pumping out of water from 28 shafts will pave the way for the commencement of actual copper mining at the site, which has been dormant for over 20 years. According to CNMC Luanshya Copper Mines Manager Corporate Affairs Sydney Chilea, the $500 million project will see water pumped out from 14 and 18 shafts that are aligned to the famous 28 shaft. Chilea has revealed that the process of pumping out water from the 3 shafts is expected to commence on April 29 and will last between 18 and 21 months. Now, the first flights actually deporting asylum seekers to Rwanda will take off in 10 to 12 weeks. Rishi Sunak has announced missing his original spring target. A 5-month battle over the Rwanda bill continued yesterday as the Lords refused to back down on demands for one last change. Sunak earlier promised to keep MPs and Lords late into the night on Monday to pass this flagship Rwanda bill. No ifs, no buts, these flights are going to Rwanda, he said. Last week, peers demanded 2 changes to the bill: for an independent monitoring committee to be put in place and for exemptions for Afghans who'd assisted the British military. That meant the bill was sent back to the House of Commons on Monday afternoon. The Minister of Illegal Migration, Michael Tomlinson, refused to accept the changes, saying he was disappointed to be voting on the bill for a 3rd time. Enough is enough, he said. We must get on with it, he also said. Stay with Africa Good Morning as we cross over to Zambia to talk to Mike Sichula about the latest stories stemming from there.
Hello, Namapia! Ons is by die kus en ons is lit.
By the Easter shot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yes. Please, today you make sure that we are fed.
Sorry, ekasi.
All right, it's time for us to talk to Mike Sichula in Zambia. Mike Muliwanji.
Bueno, Muribwanji, Africa. Good morning to our dear viewers across the African continent.
Bueno. Let's get straight into your first story. In a bid to address the shortage of maize, Zambia has permitted the importation of white and yellow non-GMO maize. Tell us more.
Yeah, so the Minister of Agriculture, Mr. Mtoropiri, has made this announcement that Zambia now should begin to import maize from, he did say that this maize will predominantly come from South Africa and some East African countries such as Uganda, Kenya, that have expressed interest to export their maize into Zambia, including Tanzania. So this comes at a time when Zambia is just experienced a severe drought that has affected close to 84 districts across the country where they did not actually cultivate the predominant maize that is used for production of mealie meal to cook. And Shima here in Zambia, in Zimbabwe, it is popularly known as Saza. So this is a situation that government has announced, and it has attracted a worldwide condemnation from civil society organization, opposition political parties, because at the time that Zambia was exporting maize, when the new administration came into office, Zambia had excess maize, but they were surprised that the authorities decided to export this maize. Then a year later, because of the El Nino, Zambia is now back to import maize, which it had in excess just a year ago.
All right, we'll see how that one unfolds. However, all is set for the Africa Land Forces Summit. Tell us more.
Yeah, the Land African Forces Summit is a conference that brings together land force commanders from the continent of Africa and other partner nations. So over 40 African land forces commanders and about 22 military leaders from North America and some parts of Europe have already arrived in Livingstone, which will be holding this conference. So close to 500 delegates, of whom have already come, are expected to attend. So this conference has been hosted by before several African countries, among them Uganda, Senegal, Tanzania, Malawi, Nigeria, Botswana, Ethiopia, and Cote d'Ivoire have already hosted this conference before. So this conference that will be happening in Livingstone, beginning from yesterday, that is 22nd to 26th April, is the 12th summit, and it is being co-hosted here in Zambia by Zambia and the United States. And it is being held under the theme Regional Solutions to Transnational Problems. President Hakainde Hichilema is expected to officially open this summit, which will run from the 22nd to 26th of April this year.
We'll certainly be looking forward to that. Now, health authorities say over 1,600 people have died from malaria-related deaths in the last year.
Yeah, the Minister of Health, Sylvia Masewo, did say that this shows that a sharp increase of malaria cases recorded from 2022, which stood at 8.1 million, with 1,343 deaths. And now, just last year, 11.1 million cases were recorded, and close to 1,600 people died. So the minister said that children below the age of 5 account for 18%, while pregnant women stood at 1%. She said that these statistics mean there is need for the country to prioritize and intensify disease prevention, community-led malaria programs. So the ministry has also already started the distribution of 11.6 million treated mosquito nets, and they have also sprayed over 700,000 structures across the country in order to prevent the spread of this malaria.
All right. Now, Mike, do let us know the latest with regards to former President Edgar Lungu and properties in Eswatini.
So there's been a report that was issued by the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists titled Swiss Secrets, a Glimpse Inside the Time Kingdom. So according to this report, it did allege that Mr. Edgar Lungu, the 6th president of Zambia, owns property in Eswatini. So in his response on his Facebook page yesterday, he said that during his official visit to Eswatini as head of state in 2018, the king, Mswati, offered him a plot on which he proposed he could build a house. According to him, he said the empty plot was in a gated golf estate, and drawings were done and everything. But the president, Mr. Lungu, by then, he opted not to take this offer because he expected that there will be a backlash back home in Zambia. So despite this land being offered to him, the president did not take it. And it is because of this that he has said that he does not own any property in Eswatini. And he also said that he decided to remain silent despite all people talking about it because he thought if he commented, he was going to show disrespect to the king, Mswati, the third, who made this offer in good faith. So this is what the former president did say on his Facebook page yesterday.
Very, very interesting indeed. Thank you, Mike, for bringing us the news stories from Zambia.
Thank you very much. Africa, good morning to our dear viewers.
Africa, good morning. Indeed, let's head over to the weather predictions before we return with economic news. And the Maputo municipality sets a 30-day deadline for licensing works without a building permit. Stay with Africa Good Morning as we give you the latest stories after the break. We are all seeking connection to each other, to the world, to the spaces we exist in. Poor sportsmanship right now from the lads.
You might be physically ready, your body is ready, but mentally.
Here's another chance, and it is a goal from Vindo Kahn.
Sy sê wie hy is dan neertrek en hy bal het my grond gevat. Ja, hy het grond gevat en is hy.
But just enough next.
Shh.
Running that mountain up. Okay, so we will be doing this for the mountain climber. More advanced, slightly advanced.
So is jou trolley reg? Want
I love that. I love that. So then
Kickstart our countdown at number 5 with this one. Op Netwerk TV se Klets Kompas gesels ons nuus van 'n Maandag tot Donderdag. Ons kyk ook na die weer en meer. Stories wat jou raak en stories wat saak maak.
They've made a mistake in denying me bail, and they've made several other mistakes in many other cases.
The channels that teach us something new or reflect our expression. So it goes beyond switching to the right station. It's about choosing the experience that can adorn the present, dressing it with our tastes as we expand our preferences, because what we are actually connecting to is boundless, limitless human energy. And this is the spirit of NTV. Getting into economic news, the UN Labour Organization warned yesterday that over 70% of the world's workforce is likely to be exposed to excessive heat during their careers, citing increased concern about exposure to sunlight. It also warned of air pollution, pesticides and other hazards that could lead to health problems, including cancer. The International Labour Organization said one of its fundamental goals is to help ensure workplace health and safety, and suggests in a new report ways that governments can improve their legislation and help cope with the rising effects of climate change on workers. This is having detrimental effects on the health of workers, not to mention on the health system as a whole, said Manal Azim, the organization's team lead on occupational safety and health. Now, African leaders at a security summit in Nigeria called for a revamp of institutions fighting violent extremism on the continent, the setting up of a standby military force, and greater control over peacekeeping efforts. Groups linked to Islamic State and Al-Qaeda have been carrying out routine attacks in Africa, including the Sahel, Somalia, and Mozambique, targeting civilians and the military. Togolese President Faure Gnassingbé said while the Sahel suffered the most attacks on civilians, coastal states like Togo were facing growing threats. Those have been our economic news stories on Africa Good Morning. We're going to swing over to the indicators just before Ari Hochad brings us the sport.
Good day everyone, time for international sports news, starting off with golf news first. It's golf news from the LPGA, the Women's PGA, and it is a great achievement by Nelly Korda. She won the first major of the year on the women's calendar. That was the Chevron Championship that was played in Texas in the USA. It's Nelly Korda that won the tournament with a total of minus 13, that is for the 4 rounds, and she closed with a round of 69, beating Maja Stark of Sweden by 2 shots. She was on minus 11 in second position. Significant achievement by Nelly Korda in that she equals the LPGA record by winning a 5th tournament in a row. It was a 5th start in a row that she teed off and won the tournament, and only twice before has that happened in LPGA and women's golf. It was Annika Sorenstam that did that in 2005. Annika Sorenstam is from Sweden, and also the American Nancy Lopez did that way back in 1978. And continuing international sports news with soccer news, it is the FA Cup final that has been determined, or rather the teams that play in the final have been confirmed. It is defending champions Manchester City. They're there again. They will play in the final against their rivals Manchester United. And that game will be played on the 25th of May at the Wembley Stadium in London. What happened over the weekend, just briefly, is Manchester City beat Chelsea by 1-0 in the semi-finals. And then in a dramatic game, it was Manchester United that beat Coventry on penalties 4-2. That was after the game ended 3-3. That was after normal time and extra time. And staying with football, it is English Premier League, and there will be very important games being played in midweek this week, and that is for mostly players or teams that's on top of the table. At the moment, it is Arsenal on top of the table after 33 games. They've got 74 points. Liverpool also 33 games, 74 points, and then Manchester City on 73, but they've played one game less. So important games this week. Firstly, on Tuesday, Arsenal at home against Chelsea, a massive game for them. Then on Wednesday, it is Liverpool that will play away to Everton, a very tough game for them. And then on Thursday, Manchester City, they play again, and they play against Brighton, and that will be at Brighton. So it's 3 important games that will in a big way also determine where the English Premier League will go to. And to conclude today's international sports news, it is tennis news. It's 2 big tournaments on the WTA, the Women's Tour and the ATP Men's Tour that was concluded. It's all on clay at the moment, leading up to the Roland Garros tournament that will start in May, the first major of the year. Firstly, for the men, it was the Barcelona Open, and the winner there was Casper Ruud, and he beat Stefanos Tsitsipas by 7-5 and 6-3. He avenged his loss in the Monte Carlo Open a week ago, and it is now Barcelona Open, his biggest win of his career for Casper Ruud. On the women's side, on the ATP or the WTA tour, it was Elena Rybakina. She's from Kazakhstan. She beat Marta Kostic of Ukraine in the final of the Stuttgart Open, and the score there was 6-2, 6-2, quite convincingly. It was Elena Rybakina that had a good win in the semi-final against number 1 in the world, Iga Swiatek, and so Elena Rybakina remained number 2 in the world. That's international sports news for today. Hope you have a great sport day, and we talk international sport again tomorrow. Goodbye.
DSTV 285, GoTV 25, 1up2.com is where you can find us. 24th to the 26th of April. Do make sure you are at the Tourism Expo. From Ashwimberi and the Africa Good Morning team, Suraj Jaganaka.